Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Now today's guest on Better Than I Found It for the second time is longtime Georgia Tech men's golf coach Bruce Heppler. Bruce recently announced that he would be retiring at the end of this 25-26 season, and that ends a 31-year reign as one of the best head coaches in all of college golf. In that 31 years, he made 22 trips to the NCAA championship, had 13 top 8 finishes, and 4 times his team was runner-up in the national championship. A total of 73 team titles, including 6 regional titles and 14 ACC titles. He's been Coach of the Year in the ACC 10 times, the National Dave Williams Award for the National Coach of the Year once, and is in both the GCA Hall of Fame and the Georgia Golf Hall of Fame. Bruce is truly one of the good guys in the profession. He does it the right way. If a young coach wants a template on how to handle themselves with recruiting, with fundraising, which he's done an amazing job of, just about everything Bruce has touched has turned to gold. He's an amazing coach, dear friend of mine, and we're going to miss him in college golf, but he's still got some life left in him. He's got a really good team this year, and I know that they'll do great this spring. Again, thank you for joining me on Better Than I Found It, and I hope you enjoyed this episode about Bruce Heppler. Okay, all my Better Than I Found It listeners, join me in welcoming to the podcast for the second time, a longtime Georgia Tech coach, Bruce Heppler. Bruce, appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me today.
Always my pleasure, Mike.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 5.5 years while coaching, while recruiting, while fundraising. I don't know how much longer I can do this. This is crazy, but I'm still doing it, and I'm really excited to have you on because I guess I'll just start with the big elephant in the room, the big recent news. You're going to be retiring following the spring season after 31 years at Georgia Tech. Talk to me about that. That's a crazy reality, isn't it?
Well, I guess when I got my Part A Medicare card last March, it's like a signal that we at least need to consider this situation. And it's like a kind of one of those rites of passage thing, I think, in your life, possibly. And so that was really, my contract was scheduled to end this coming June anyway. And there'd been a couple, I guess, years put on that, just kind of to say, well, my contract runs out when, but that was really never my intention. And I just felt like, to be really transparent with the 26 kids that signed yesterday and some 27 young men that were recruiting. And there was a lot of, I guess, interaction between them and my team that to just do right by everybody and let everybody know. Never want to go back and say, hey, oh, by the way, this is what I was going to do all the whole time. So I think it was just the right time to let past, present, and future kind of know what the plans were and try to really get their head around that and move forward without being distracted, I guess.
Well, I'd certainly appreciate that and respect that a lot. By the way, tell me, who are your 26 signees yesterday?
Yeah, we signed a couple of young men from Georgia, Patman Malcolm and Brody McQueen. A couple kids had a lot of success here in high school and occasionally on the national stage. So we're excited to have them. They're both wonderful students and I think fit the mold of what we've had here in the past, that can see the value in both sides of why you go to college. And I think they fit that tremendously, and they have a chance to be really good players as well.
Well, let's talk about that mold. Some people think that they know exactly the kind of kid you recruit. How do you start that process? Because I've noticed you've always had very respectful kids, amazingly disciplined kids. I know part of that is good fortune. Part of it is your the way you recruit. But where do you start in the recruiting process to get those kids to become Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
Well, I think it was something shared with me with one of our former bosses, who at times was a little interesting on recruiting visits about how he went about stuff. And I often wondered, like, okay. But he said, what you want to do, Bruce, is you want to recruit the same way you're going to coach. So whatever that looks like, it's really important that you share that with the young people as you get to know them and as they come to see you. And so, as you know, fit is everything. Divorces in real life are not good, and they're not any better in college athletics. And so, in an effort to try to be upfront and transparent with everybody who's come through here, set expectations, plans, what it's all about. You just don't need somebody disappointed after 2 weeks because they said this isn't what you said it was going to be. And so I think if we've done anything, we've been very transparent with all of the young people who have visited us or we've started conversations with is this is what we're looking for. This is the type of attitude. I guess I don't know that it's always been aptitude. I think it's as much attitude as it is aptitude sometimes in life. And this is what our guys have done in the past, and this is what it looks like. And so for the most part, I think we've probably chased a fair number of guys off, but we really haven't anyone really ever leave. And for the most part, so I think that's the key is to just, I don't think it does any good to try to convince somebody that's otherwise of the way that it is. You're just going to run into a problem after they get there. And so I think it's just been really honest with them about what the whole experience is going to be like.
Well, and I can echo that because you've always been the same to me, regardless of whether we're in a recruiting situation or having dinner at a golf tournament or competing against each other in a tournament. I've always known what to expect from Bruce Heppler. I always appreciated that. And I guess I'm going to give Mike Holder a lot of credit. He's had some pretty amazing assistant coaches. I mean, I don't want to overblow that, but he had Fred Warren, who did an amazing job at East Tennessee, myself, Alan Bratton. He had a lot of really, really solid assistant coaches. I think he understood character and how to recruit character.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and but to say that, I mean, you obviously are one of my favorite coaches. I'm gutted that you're going to be out of the profession because I tell young coaches that I want great people coming into our profession because it makes my experience better, and people have a lot more respect for me when they know that I'm part of a profession that has people like Bruce Heppler. I mean that. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, thanks for the example you've been all these years. I'm going to throw a curveball at you, something you didn't expect. So in the summer of 2005, I was the women's head coach at Oklahoma State and had been so for 1 year. And you're going to remember this in Atlanta, Georgia. I was having breakfast with Mike Holder at Karsten Creek. He was getting ready to go to the British Boys, and I was getting ready to go to the Cannon Cup in Atlanta. It's now the Wyndham Cup. And he said, okay, McGraw, I'll see you when I get back and whatever. So I went to the Cannon Cup to recruit, and I had one girl that I was watching that I was going to watch. And I see you on the first tee, and I see this girl walking straight toward me, and she's walking over to the first tee, and she's got a Vanderbilt head cover on. And she was the only girl that I had come to the tournament to watch. And anyway, long story short, do you remember what you and I talked about that day?
Well, I'd not always seen a smile on your face every day in this particular situation, and I tried to hire you, man. I thought the world of you, and we had a situation when there was an opening, and I thought, man, if I can get this guy, things will be really good here. And so I tried to get you to come to the big city and work with me. Yeah.
Well, you literally, you could see that I was like dying here. And by the way, I couldn't get my flight changed, which made me really upset. I was going to stay at the Cannon Cup 2 more days in Atlanta with no one to watch.
Well,
So,
I tried to convince you that if you were working at Georgia Tech, we have friends at Delta and we get stuff changed all the time, you know?
that's funny. You did say that. And I've always considered you're on a private jet every day because Delta treats you like you're on a private jet. It's unreal. Nobody gets treated better than Bruce Heppler by an airline. But I look back on that and I think to myself, you literally offered me the job, and I went back home to Stillwater, and Mike had already decided he was going to give me the men's job. So
he was always one step ahead of me. Always one
always,
step ahead.
always one step ahead. But nobody in the history of college golf knows that story because that's the first time I've told it. And you tried to hire me. That would have been amazing. We would have been so, I don't know if we'd have been the best coaching duo ever or if we'd have just imploded. Who knows what would have happened.
Well, we would have enjoyed ourselves. I really wouldn't have worried much after that.
Okay, Bruce, before we get to the years at Georgia Tech, let's talk about the last act as an assistant coach at Oklahoma State at the Scarlet Course. Mike Holder told you to get a player, put him in a car and take him to the airport. Talk about that moment with Leif Westerberg.
Well, it's funny because back then, you could only have one coach, right? So if you were an assistant, you really had no place in the arena. So my job for the week was to just walk along the cart path and watch, Leif play every day. And that first day he didn't count. Got a little nudge about that. Are you going to get anything out of the guy? And the second day, no, it didn't count. Another nudge, and third day, nothing. And God, well, can you finally get something out of this guy? It's the last round. It's like, what are you doing? I said, well, first of all, I'm walking on the cart path. I don't know what you want me to do, but we'll try. So he turns in 38. I'm thinking, well, we're going to go 0 for 4, right? And there were storms and lightning back and forth, and several stoppages on the back, and he managed to turn and shoot 33 on the back. His last birdie putt came up about a half an inch short, and he's kind of moaning, looking around and I'm like, Leif, you need to tap that in because the horn's about to go off one more time. So he actually tapped it and finished, and I think his playing partners had not finished the hole, so he was official. Got a scorecard signed, and he was headed off to the British Amateur. I said, Coach, what are we doing? Like, what if we end up in a playoff? And he said, well, we haven't been ahead all day. If we can somehow end up in a playoff, we'll play those guys 4 on 5 and we'll be just fine. So got him on a plane and sent him across the ocean. And lo and behold, we ended up in a playoff and managed to beat a very, very good Stanford team with, as I always add at the end, with Tiger Woods on it. So, yeah, it was awesome. Great day.
Yep, that's incredible. Yeah, and most people, I didn't know part of that story you just told me, which was great. You mentioned Tiger Woods. Talk about recruiting Tiger when you were at UNLV. And I know you had some interactions with Earl Woods. I mean, you did a lot of recruiting at Tiger.
Yeah, I probably watched, I would guess, as many holes as anyone did at that experience. And I remember the first time we showed up, really was, I'd seen a little bit at Junior World younger, not really quite understanding what I was seeing, but showed up at the U.S. Junior, his first at Lake Merced in California. And it was mesmerizing. And back then, I think there were 30 or 40 coaches who showed up for stroke play, and then kind of everybody went home for match play, except for Mike and I, and of course, Coach Robbie. She stayed around, and we went to the Pizza Inn every day. We weren't worried about who was watching who, and there was plenty of time. And we were actually recruiting Matthew Todd from Fresno, and they're in the tournament, but you could not watch Tiger. And so it was just match after match, and you just kind of watch whoever else you could fit in because you weren't going to miss this. And so obviously he became ill, I think, during the morning of the semifinals and lost to Dennis Hillman, and Matthew Todd ended up winning the tournament. So watched all those matches on to Walston, Mass, on to Bay Hill, and finally on to Portland, Oregon, right? And really literally watched, I would have to say 80 or 90% of every shot, ever hit. And there were some magical moments in there. Earl would always put his headphones on to make it like he wasn't talking to you, but you spend that much time with somebody, you kind of got a little bit on the inside of that. So I remember the last one. I think he'd beaten Ohio State, Ryan Armour the year before really badly. And Ryan had swore he was going to get back and play him again. And they ended up in the finals in Portland. And the driver had gotten a little crazy by then and been put away, and he just hitting irons off the tees, Tiger was. And so in all my years, Mike, I never saw him lose a hole. Other guys won holes, but he never lost a hole. And I think he was one down playing 16. And I keep telling people, don't worry about it. I've seen the magic before. Something good's going to happen to him. Well, he absolutely 3-putts 16. And Ryan gets it up and down for par to go 2 down. So now he's dormy, right? And I'm thinking, it's okay. Seen this guy before. No worries. And 17 was a pretty good par 4, but it had a fairway bunker right where everybody was hitting it. And so everybody's kind of hitting irons off the tee, long iron in. And so Ryan's got honors. I hits this 3-iron out there, whatever. It's perfect. And all of a sudden off comes the head cover. And he hits this thing. I don't know how far it went, but it carried the bunker by 50 or 60 yards. He's got a little 9-iron or wedge in there. And Ryan does what he's supposed to. He's 2 up and hits a 5-iron, 20 feet or whatever. And all of a sudden this 8 or 9 irons about 8-9 feet. Ryan rolls it up there, taps it in. Boom. Tiger makes it. He's 1 down. Go to par 5, long hole. And Ryan again, Tiger steps up and again hits this driver again. I don't know how far it went, but I think the hole was close to 600 yards. And Ryan hits his iron, and now Tiger's going to go for it in 2. Misses it just a little bit and comes up in the greenside bunker. So now he's got about a 20-yard bunker shot to a front pin. Ryan hits his wedge 15 feet left, just like he's supposed to. and people going, there's no way he's going to get this ball up and down. There's no chance. And he hits it to about 5 feet. Ryan misses. He makes. We're all square. So we walk over to the first playoff hole, and I'm standing right next to the big man, Earl, and he takes his headset out, and he looks at me, and he goes, Coach, how'd you like to coach that for 4 years? And so pretty great stuff. Incredible junior player. It's interesting now that there's another Woods. We won't talk about it, but I guess the difference is now, back then there were 8 of us that knew, and now the whole world knows. And it's just a very different scenario for what he's going through versus what his son's going through, obviously, with the number of people that watch in the news that's around there. But it was incredible. And obviously that continued through college and into his challenge to be the best player that ever was.
Well, there's a story that goes around. Mike Holder was at the Insurance Youth Classic somewhere in southern part of the country, and he bet a bunch of coaches that Tiger Woods, a 13-year-old, was going to win, and they were going crazy.
He was taking Tiger versus the field. I didn't take any of those bets because I knew better, but there were others who lost a lot of lunches on the Tiger versus the field experience. Absolutely.
Isn't that unbelievable? It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did know you had a history with Tiger and Earl, so I wanted to hear that. But 31 years at Georgia Tech. Okay, let me go over some stats here real quick. You know them already, but my listeners don't necessarily. 22 trips to the NCAA championship. 13 times your team finished in the top 8. 4 times your team was the national runner-up in 1998, 02, 05, and 23. You have 73 team titles, including 6 regional championships and 14 ACC titles. You've had 2 NCAA individual champs, Troy Madison and Hiroshi Tai. 3 U.S. amateur champions, Kuchar, Ogletree, and Stravesey. You've had a British amateur champion, Christo Lamprecht. 57 All-Americans, 49 All-American scholars, 6 Walker Cuppers, 11 Arnold Palmer Cup players. Twice you were the Palmer Cup captain in 2003 to 2015. You were the ACC Coach of the Year 10 times, National Coach of the Year in 2002, GCAA Hall of Fame in 2013, and the Georgia Golf Hall of Fame in 2022. And that's just some. I've got some others I'm going to talk about later. That's incredible, Bruce. When you put that all together, I mean, that's got to even shock you, thinking how much you've accomplished at Georgia Tech.
Well, I felt like, in the profession that I'd worked for 2 really good people, right? And you're trying to learn as much as you can. And I guess you kind of, at that point, semi felt like I was prepared to see what would happen and show up down here, and Stewart sinks out the door, and there's not another one behind him. And we finished last, I think, 5 times my first season, including the ACC championship. And it was hard. We'd won 9 times the year before. But I guess when you add it all up, Mike, that's all happening. And it's about looking after people, and the stuff just kind of accumulates, and you don't spend a lot of time. I guess you do build some trophy cases to put it all in, but it just kind of happens over time. And I felt like one time I was 35 years old, and now I'm 65, and it was like, that like it happened overnight. And this is kind of how that's all added up. It's just because every year you just try to open the door and see what you can accomplish. So we've obviously had incredible players. I think we've raised close to $36 million for the golf program since I've been here, which, as you know, without facilities and opportunities, I've told our donors over and over again, nothing happens here without being able to build a $16 million practice facility in the middle of downtown, join golf club, join Eastlake. That was all done with private money. And then again, even those have ties to where I worked, right? Dwayne gets to Las Vegas, nowhere to play, finds a facility situation, and Mike goes from Lakeside Golf Club to Stillwater Country Club to then the opportunity to build Karsten. And so, because of the folks that I worked for, I got here and realized that we needed to have a home. They had some selling kind of the variety thing. We can go here, we can go there, but learned, really strongly in Stillwater, you got to have a place where they can go every day. And so those experiences of working for both of those men gave me the ideas to try to do some of that here, and donors responded, and young people came, and you step back and you go like, wow, we just had some incredible people here who've won all this stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know you had raised $36 million. I knew you'd built a beautiful facility right in downtown, which honestly, if you think about, Bruce, the job you've done, I'm going to say it's top 3 all time in history of collegiate golf as far as overcoming perceived obstacles. I mean, people can call them obstacles all they want, and I know people did. And you knew when you took the job that there were some obstacles, but you've overcome those. What gave you the stick-to-itiveness? And you worked for a couple of guys that did the same thing, but in Dwayne Knight at UNLV and Mike Holder at Oklahoma State. But how were you able to overcome those, what look like total obstacles in everybody else's eyes?
Well, again, I hate to give it all to Coach Holder, but that's an up early, stay late kind of guy, and I learned there very quickly over 4 years as to if you're going to be nationally competitive, what that looks like. And so I don't know, it could be possibly a better example of what it took from an effort standpoint to try to be the best there was. And so, I'd always had a job as a kid, served a 2-year mission in South Africa, which those are long days, right? And I think if I brought anything to the table was I know how to get up early, and I know how to stay late, and I just knew what we needed to have, and then just found an incredible group of donors and people here who love the Bobby Jones thing and the Yates and the family and the whole thing, and they just stepped up every time we explained. And it was funny, most of that money, Mike, I never asked for a dime. We would set these needs and these aspirations and what we needed to do, and people just gave without really having to sit down and ask somebody for a gift. And so I guess it's just, I had an idea what we needed and tried to express that to some people here who care a lot about golf and put that all together, and it happened. So again, a lot of credit to them for helping us get the things that we needed. I appreciate the compliment.
Well, you obviously used to live way out north of Atlanta and drove in every day. Now you live very near your campus and very near the practice facility, correct?
Yes.
How much longer are you going to live there? Are you going to, after the NCAA this year, are you moving out west?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. We have a small family just with the 2 children, and somehow by hook or by crook, maybe answer to prayers, they both have ended up in St. George, Utah, where I grew up, and gone to school there, and they've married local kids. Zach's a proud father of a 1-year-old little girl. And so, as you know, when you and I first started, there wasn't a recruiting calendar, and that was 80 or 90, sometimes 100 days by ourselves recruiting. And I just feel like I've lucked out. They're both there. Time to kind of catch up and do some things. And Tracy's ready to be a full-time grandma, and so it worked out. So we'll build a house there and move there. My brother's still there, my sister's still there, and whether they want me around or not, they're going to get me. It's just the way it's going to be. So it's kind of worked out in a very nice fashion.
Well, that's wonderful to see. You sent me a photo of the house under construction. Really excited for you and Tracy, and for the new start you're going to have out there. I guess it's a new start. But tell me, what do you plan on doing in retirement?
Well, Coach Fields has engaged me in trying to serve on this foundation group to try to enhance the NCAA experience there. So I guess we'll have a little more time to put towards that once I'm not doing this full time. And I guess the rest is just going to be to kind of figure it out as we go along.
That's good. Will you start playing golf again or not?
Well, I don't know if you've seen that the video went viral.
No.
Obviously, the tradition at the Masters, if you're caddying in the par 3 tournament, is you got to hit the shot on the last hole. And as you know, it's been a long time since I'd hit anything that mattered, right? In fact, I didn't even have any wedges when we moved downtown. Tracy sold everything we had in the garage sale, including my club. So the folks from Titleist came in and were kind enough to get me some wedges, and I didn't want to do it. And my assistant came to me and said, look, well, wait a minute. This is your 4th guy in the Masters in 5 years. It's the first one that's asked you to caddy for him. If he wants you to do that, then you got to man up. And no matter how bad it is, you're going to hit that shot. So I practiced a little bit and actually got on the tee. And I didn't know that Hiroshi was rolling the film. and actually hit a pretty good shot that ended about a foot off the green and kind of stuck in the fringe there. So it looks like there might be some hope there. So yeah, I hope to play a little golf with Zach and some family members out there.
I've got to get a hold of that video. I haven't seen
I'll
it.
send it to you when we're done.
Perfect. I'd love to see it. Well, listen, one of the things that I've always appreciated about you, we recruited against each other. I lost some to you. You lost some to me. It was a pretty good battle back and forth. We didn't recruit that many times against each other, but I knew every time I lost a recruit to you, I knew I'd lost to a guy who did it the right way. And I think you felt the same about me. Maybe I just didn't push the right buttons or whatever, but I knew that you did it the right way. And let me talk a little bit about some of those things you did the right way. You're the only coach in history that's had 4 Byron Nelson Award winners, which is given to the outstanding student athlete.
Actually, it's actually 5, my man. Actually,
5?
5.
Which one did I miss on?
Well, Troy won the Arnold Palmer and the Byron Nelson Award.
That's it. That's who I was missing
Yep.
But Anders Albertson, James White, Roberto Castro, and Cristo all have won the Byron. So that's 5. I've had 2, and I think it's like that's one of the great accomplishments of my career. Zach Robinson at Oklahoma State and Matthew Perrine here at Baylor. That's an amazing award, and to me, one of the most prestigious awards in all of college golf, because you're not just a great student, you're also a great player. That's hard to be both at that level.
Well, I think so. And again, it's why I've enjoyed being here, knowing that, there were 2 tracks to being successful once you left here, either playing or what the degree provided. I guess in some ways, Mike, I feel like everything I've ever gotten is because of my education. I had a master's degree. I don't know how much that influenced Dr. Rice as far as hiring me, but we've just tried to create an experience here where golf is, again, as we've talked about, what you do. It's not who you are. And it's funny, before I got here in all those years, we'd had one, academic All-American who was Tom Shaw. And since then, the number's 55 or whatever awards in that scenario. And so I've just tried to really get them to realize that to have success in other areas of their life will help their golf. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like you're a lunatic, but I think if your self-esteem is tied to a scorecard, golf can be really hard for a long time. But if you have other things that your self-esteem, whether it's success in the weight room, the classroom, relationships with other people, then when you happen to have the bad day, you're still an okay guy. And they've latched onto that. Bryce Mulder, as you know, one of the greatest players in the history of college golf, started that, was an academic All-American 2 times in a row. That Byron Nelson didn't exist when he was playing, or he would have won that certainly. And he just kind of changed the culture here. And instead of just trying to hang an All-American plaque on the top row, they decided we're going to try to hang one on the top and the bottom. And lo and behold, you look at the wall and go, this is crazy how this has happened. But I credit him with a lot of that. But again, it's just the idea that it just can't be about your score. And they bought into that. And those guys have enjoyed tremendous success.
Yeah, it's unheard of what you guys have been able to accomplish both on the golf course and off the golf course. And Bruce, another great statistic of your teams through the years, you've got a perfect APR, 100%. Never, ever had a player not graduate. That's pretty amazing in over 20 years. That's something you got to be really proud of, not just the 5 Byron Nelson Award winners, the perfect APR, but also Roberto Castro and Bryce did something else. Tell me about the NCAA Top 8 award that they both received.
So it's an award that the association, it's their, I guess, pinnacle of accomplishment from the NCAA. Initially, I think they awarded 8 of these a year. It may be up to 10 now, but it's all divisions. It's men and women. It's all sports. And they look at your athletic resume, your academics, and your community service. And those 2 guys are the only 2 male college golfers to have ever won that award, which is incredible, I guess, in my mind. And again, the APR kind of stood for graduation and also eligibility and retention. And we've tried to just stick with guys that, guys have hard times. Sometimes things don't go smoothly, but we've tried to continue to encourage and prod and push people along, and they've stayed and finished up nicely.
Yeah, I think people overlook the fact that you can be a great student and a great golfer. You can do both. It's really possible. But let's talk about those great golfers you've had. You've had, I think, over 15 PGA Tour players. Of your players that have played the PGA Tour, 14 times they've won a PGA Tour tournament, but the prize money they've won has totaled almost $205 million. I mean, that's crazy, Bruce. Your guys have been not just successful in Atlanta, they've been successful all around the world. Congratulations on an incredible crop of PGA Tour players.
I needed to have started that 10% club before I first got here, right? I got a funny story for you, though. So there was a young man on my first team, and he kind of got away from me, never came back in the fall to play in the fundraiser. And finally, I guess the school has tried to reach out to see about him making a donation. He said, if I'm going to do anything, it'll be for my golf program or whatever. And so they said, you ought to call him and have lunch. So I did, and got there, and I said, look, did I treat you poorly? I've never, you haven't really participated. And he said, Coach, your fundraiser is the wrong time of year. And I go, what do you mean it's the wrong time? And he says, well, I go hunting. I said, what do you mean you go hunting? He says, well, I've got a ranch in Kansas. I've got a ranch in Nebraska. And we kind of just take 6-8 weeks and just go hunting. I said, okay, so now I need to know the backstory. So he graduated in civil engineering, had gone to work for a guy. Guy sold his company. They started their own. And about a year before our meeting, he had sold his company for $500 million.
Oh my God!
I'm thinking, now there's the leading money winner. It is no longer Matt Kuchar. It is Brad Carroll. Absolutely amazing what's happened on the other side of the equation.
Yeah, you can be successful in golf and out in life in the business world as well, huh?
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, real quick, best change you've seen in 31 years of being a head coach in college golf?
Well, it was interesting. My first year was when we went to regionals, which I think is, the younger crowd does not know how significant it was. That was a closed shop, 30 spots based on geography. We would not have college golf today. It would not be the same. There was no reason to start or to have emphasis because it was a closed door. So those folks who came up with that, it was the first year of my head coaching we went to El Paso and got through. Again, that happened right before I started, but I think that's certainly one of the most significant things. And then, I'm one that pushed for the format. I do love at the end that everybody matters. Everybody counts. We're not throwing anybody out. And everybody matters. And it's true competition. It's guy versus guy, 5 guys, got to get to 3. The difference is night and day. If it's a stroke play event, you may not know you got to make a putt till the 71st hole. But man, in this format, the winning and losing starts on the very first hole, and you can't cut it. You can't cut it with a knife. The anxiety, the pressure, the experience those young people have in that scenario, I think is as pure a sport as there is. And I also like the fact that all 5 guys, you don't go there and just keep dropping somebody. Like, everybody has a chance to earn a point, and it matters. And so obviously I was a big proponent of that, had some ideas how we set that up. So I think it's been really great for the sport. A lot of other people disagree, but I do think it's drawn attention. I do think it helps people understand, because it looks like all the other sports. Eventually, we finally get to a bracket. Everybody loves brackets. Every other sport has a bracket. We didn't have one, and now we do. And I think it's been tremendous.
It has been good for the exposure to our game. I think a lot more people understand college golf now, and it does bring a lot of excitement toward the end of the year. There's no doubt about it. So a mulligan. Would you take a mulligan in anything you've done as a coach?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think at times, Mike, when I first got here, kind of played one shining moment all day long. And it really was day in and day out for, I guess, 6, 7, 8, 9 years that the national championship was the end all, be all. And probably at times was probably a little overhyped, a little stressed. I don't know that there were times that I actually helped our postseason experience because of just wanting that so badly. I'm afraid that rubbed off at times, and may have done things or said things when somebody maybe didn't play well or didn't go exactly the way they want. I probably wished I could have some of those things back, but I think after a while, I've finally gotten the proper perspective on all of this now. And, but I think in the beginning, I think that tournament probably obviously came from just winning one when I got here. And that's what Dwayne talked about every year and a lot in those two guys. And so I think if I were to take something back, it was that became, I hate to say it, almost a god or an idol in some ways. And I wish that had not been the case.
Yeah. There's no question, Bruce, that I felt that way at the end at Oklahoma State. It was like we kept on having one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country in 9, 10, 11, and we didn't win any of those years. And I think I made it way too important. So I'd agree with you there. If I had a mulligan, I'd go back and be a little more easygoing during that stretch of time. What's the importance of doing it the right way?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess we all have some kind of a moral code that we grew up with, right, wrong. When you have your children, you try to teach them about honesty and those kind of things. And I guess the last thing in the world is you want to walk home one day and go, well, Dad's not employed anymore because he took some shortcuts and somebody found out about him and he's not okay in a profession. And so also wanting to show young people the right and the wrong way. They look at some of the rules that we have and have to respond to them. They don't understand some of that stuff. And then explain to them, well, just because you see another coach doing something doesn't mean you do it. Just like if you see someone, moving the ball in the rough, that doesn't give you free reign. But I guess a clean conscience. I never wanted to win anything and have somebody bring something up and have them take it away. What wouldn't have been worth winning had we done that? So certainly have made mistakes through the year. Don't mean to suggest that there weren't things, but just as I guess it was the way I was raised, how I want my kids and my wife and the guys on our team to see their coach as somebody who doesn't move the ball in the rough. And again, not to have, I guess, to know that if you ever won anything that mattered, that your peers who you do respect would actually come up and congratulate you because they knew you did it the right way. That was always a kind of a thought in my mind is, why would I want to win something and nobody come shake my hand because they knew it wasn't done? So I guess all of that added together has been a little bit of how I've tried to go about this every day. Well,
I know it's not easy talking about yourself. That's hard to do. That's not easy. But I did want my listeners out there to know, and that's the reason I'm having you on this podcast. One, you've still got a whole spring semester with a really, really good team. You've got a lot of hope for a great year as well. But before time got away, I wanted to have this podcast. I want everybody out there to know that you were a guy that did it the right way, and you did that for over 30 years. And, the name of this podcast is Better Than I Found It. And I feel like there's no doubt in my mind you left Georgia Tech and you left college golf itself as a whole better than you found it. So congratulations on an amazing career, even though I know you've got a little bit more to go.
Well, coming from someone who I have great respect for, I really appreciate those comments, Mike. I really do.
Absolutely. Well, okay, I want to wish you and Tracy and your kids a happy Thanksgiving. And I won't see you at the convention. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go. Pam is having a few health problems, but hopefully sometime we run into each other in the spring.
Yes, sir. Take care of her now.
All right. Perfect. Thanks, Bruce.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye.